Beings like Cad Bane, Jango and Boba Fett, and now even Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, are likely the first characters that come to your mind when you think of bounty hunters in Star Wars. Those hunters, while they were perhaps the most talented in their craft, were simply the ones whose character arcs scored them screen time, so to speak, and there were many other bounty hunters worthy of our attention. Also, while it may have gone a little under the radar before, Din Djarin demonstrated to us that not all bounty hunters are immoral, and some were even willing to forego credits to maintain their moral codes. In this video, we're going to discuss some of Star Wars' more underrated bounty hunters, keeping our scope on those who appeared in Star Wars The Clone Wars and prioritizing those who had at least a sense of morality, like Din Djarin and unlike Aurra Sing, who found pleasure in killing, and Bossk, who enjoyed skinning Wookiees.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
These first four bounty hunters, while perhaps not the most effective hunters in the galaxy, certainly had a sense of morality and, in some instances, compassion. The female Zabrak bounty hunter and mercenary Sookie is a great place to start, as she abided by strict codes, one of which was a willingness to die for her clients. Sookie started out as a bounty hunter on her homeworld, Iridonia, and she was obviously quite good at her job, as she was, at some point, able to purchase a Botajeff shipyard's SS-54 assault ship, and other skilled hunters respected her enough to work with her. Like all good hunters, Sookie was proficient with blasters and blades, and she was also quite dexterous and strong, able to spring an ambush on Darth Maul, Savage Opress, and Pre Vizsla and hold her own for a while. While Sookie appeared in 5 episodes of The Clone Wars, the episode which illustrates her as a character best is episode 17 of Season 2, Bounty Hunters. In this episode, set in 22 BBY, Sookie and her squad of bounty hunters, which included the Kyuzu Embo and the who knows what Serapaz, were hired by Nycillan farmers on the Felucian homeworld. Their job was to stop a gang of Weequay pirates from extorting the farmers, though before Sookie and her squad had a chance to do the job on their own, Obi-Wan, Anakin and Ahsoka arrived, which led, at first, to a bit of tension. Despite this, they ended up working together, and when the Weequay pirates tried to outbid the Felucians for Sookie's allegiance, Sookie refused to break the deal she had already made with the farmers. Even so, Obi-Wan distrusted Sookie, comparing her with the very pirates that they were up against. Sookie proved the Jedi wrong, however, sticking around to defeat the pirates, and she even, throughout the fight, displayed concerns for her fellow mercenaries, avenging the death of Frank Rumi Parameter and rushing to the aid of Embo when he was injured. A part of Sookie's squad and featured in that same episode, Serapaz was another bounty hunter with a sense of morality. Really, this runt of an alien, whose species remains a mystery, was quite timid and self-conscious, and even the intimidating mechanical armored suit he operated was quickly shredded by blaster bolts. Serapaz isn't all that underrated in terms of physical and mental aptitude, though with his timidity and self-consciousness, he was certainly atypical of a bounty hunter, so much so that he was actually befriended by Ahsoka, making the little grub worthy of at least a mention. Cinnatine bounty hunter Brick and Arcona bounty hunter Eyeless, like Sookie and Serapaz, sort of go both hand in hand. They were both hired by the Republic to train clone cadets on Kamino, and they were both first featured in the pilot episode of Season 3 of The Clone Wars. The former fact alone speaks at least for the proficiency and maybe morality of this pair of bounty hunters. The Republic simply wouldn't have hired them to handle their military force if they were incompetent or untrustworthy. Brick, while intelligent, was quite aggressive in his approach to military training, and he openly told Eyles he cared little for the progress of the cadets and was concerned only with making cheddar. Despite this, his aggressiveness and intolerance for BS brought out the best in his cadets, and he seemed to get some sort of satisfaction in watching Domino Squad pass the Citadel challenge in the end.
Well, I'll be creative little clones, aren't they?
Brick also empathized with Iles, who was optimistic about the clone squad and had previously said, "These cadets will be the finest troopers we've trained. I have faith in them." The Arconan bounty hunter was far more compassionate in general, and I really can't imagine him out with the blaster chasing bounties for cash. I would be interested to learn about the stories of Brick and Iles before and after their employment on Camino, though then I would have to think about Brick's sickening Cenatine head, and I'm just not into that. These next 4 bounty hunters, while they may not have expressed at least a sense of morality, were certainly some of the more effective hunters in the galaxy, and they're certainly deserving of attention. While Embo fought alongside Sookie and Serapaz on multiple occasions, this space alien Kung Lao was much more typical of a bounty hunter, and if there was a sense of morality to the being, the fact that he spoke little and only in his native language made it impossible to tell. Embo's Kung Lao hat was actually a Kyuzu war shield, and it was by far his most iconic weapon, though he made good use of his bowcaster too. In terms of prowess as a bounty hunter, he was second, perhaps only to the infamous Cad Bane, and the fact that he endured an assault by Savaggio Press for so long was a testament to that. In regard to Embo's alignment, he seemed to be in it for the cheddar and/or the rep. Yes, he fought alongside Sookie, Serapaz, and the Jedi, but he also answered Count Dooku's call, competing for a job in the Trials of Moralo Eval's box, and he also attacked Rush Clover, Padme Amidala, and Anakin Skywalker on Scipio, having been employed by the Sith Lord Sidious himself. Another bounty hunter who got all up in Moralo's box was the Padawan known as Daron. If you thought Embo was hard to read, Daron was a bloody Elder Scroll, and we can only assume he was, like Embo, all about making cheddar and or building that rep. Padawans were little more than bags of gas with tentacle appendages and mushroom heads, and they certainly didn't speak basic. Their ability to float, withstand electricity, at least up to that of a ray shield, and produce electricity made them quite dangerous even when unarmed. Daron, known also as the Exterminator, boasted not only his natural abilities, but also a shoulder-mounted blaster, a pair of custom blaster pistols, and 2 belts stocked with explosives. A generous dose of Daron's electric discharge was enough to put Anakin Skywalker on his ass, and I for one would like to learn more about old mate Squidward over here. While lacking in stature, Robanino, a bounty hunting Petrolian, was nowhere near as much of a little grub as Serapaz. He made his first proper TCW appearance in episode 22 of season 1, Hostage Crisis, in which he teamed up with Cad Bane and some other bounty hunters including Aura Singh to take Republic senators hostage and force the Republic to free Zero the Hutt. For this mission, Robanino was the tech guy, the hacker, and he was able to sabotage the power network in the Senate building and set off an emergency lockdown, as well as leap onto Anakin Skywalker's back and stick a taser into his neck, causing the Jedi to hit the floor in much the same fashion as Daron. Later, in a Clone Wars webcomic, Robanino was able to use thermal detonators to stave off Jedi Master Kit Fisto, and back in the TV series, he went on to be employed by Count Dooku to kill Padme Amidala. But Amidala was notoriously hard to kill, and he failed. That was the last we saw of Fishface, unfortunately. The male human bounty hunter from Corellia, Dengar pervades the Star Wars universe, though he literally gets thrown out and shut down in the Clone Wars.
Who's your girlfriend?
Shut up, Dengar.
This is most unfortunate, as while he was an ice-cold bounty hunter for a time, his story is far more complex than those of other hunters we've covered in this video. In 21 BBY, Dengar joined Boba Fett, Bossk, and Asajj Ventress on a mercenary mission to Corzite, tasked with escorting the cargo of a hover train which he was thrown off of and left behind physically and narratively in the Clone Wars, which, again, is most unfortunate, especially because he was voiced by Simon Pegg. Dengar's next and final appearance in the Clone Wars was episode 14 of season 5, Eminence, in which about the only useful thing he does is cover Sookie and Embo's retreat from Maul, Oppress, and Vizsla using smoke grenades. His story following these events beyond the Clone Wars is far more interesting. Dengar was a swoop racer, for instance, and he clashed with Han Solo, who caused Dengar to go flying off his swoop, crash into crystalline plants, and take a shard of crystal to the brain. On death's door, he was saved by doctors of the Empire, who turned him into a cyborg with an emotional spectrum ranging only from loneliness to rage. He thereafter returned to bounty hunting, encountering Solo many times, though he was always unable to catch the guy. It goes on far beyond what we have time for in this video, but know that Dengar, a proper character with a scattered, realistic arc, was utterly abandoned in the Clone Wars and thus is the most underrated bounty hunter in the Clone Wars that I can think of. Except, maybe, for Sai Snootles.
Next time you'll think twice about breaking someone's heart. Oh, wait. There won't be a next time. No!
In conclusion, not all of the galaxy's bounty hunters were ice-cold murderers, though beings who were able to at least switch off their sense of morality while on the job would have rested better at night. But what do you think? Can you think of any other underrated bounty hunters with a sense of morality? What about any other plain underrated bounty hunters from the Clone Wars or Star Wars in general? Let us know in the comments section below. And just before I go guys, make sure you check out those links in the description below, including our Geetsly's Gaming Network where you can join us on Gary's Mod and Roblox, our main Geetsly's Discord server where you can chat with other Star Wars fans like yourself, and if you want to help support the channel more than you already are by watching this video, please do check out the Patreon as well. If you do decide to donate, you get access to a special behind the scenes Discord where you can see how myself and my team operate. Anyways guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.